the US dollar weakens, the DXY is going to start coming down. The money supply, the liquidity is going to start flowing in the US and also around the world. We know China already started. They're giving stimulus, tax breaks, everything. They're just like injecting money all over the place in the US. We're doing the same thing. We're cutting rates, right? Kind of the same thing. All over the place. Everywhere around the world. Money supply is increasing. All this is great. Great for Bitcoin. And yeah, that's also happening. Okay, so dollar weakens, growing money supply, growing stablecoin supply. All great for Bitcoin. Now, I just talked about, like, you know, governments around the world printing unlimited amount of money. So it's been talked about that in 2025, around the world, there'll be about 20 trillion more dollars coming. 20 trillion. It's like a drop in the bucket for traditional finance. But you know what? Bitcoin itself may be attracting 10% of that, which is a lot because that's more than the entire market cap of Bitcoin right now, because Bitcoin is under 2 trillion. So that is a lot. That would be doubling Bitcoin's price right now, right? That's assuming there's no other buying and everything. So, you know, that just shows you how much money there is and how much more money is coming. And that's why things will get real nutty next year. That's why I've said the landscape for Bitcoin is going to change next year. And as Bitcoin gets bigger and stronger and more embraced and more mature, the landscape for the rest of crypto is going to change as well, especially in the US, especially if Trump, he turns everything around, all his appointees, everyone that takes over becomes pro-crypto. It's really going to change the game for everything. Like, right now we're all speculating, but it does seem like everyone he's pointing, they're all very, very pro. Very pro indeed. Again, next year, we're going to get Bitcoin to become a national strategic reserve asset. And that's going to change the landscape again. I don't think people realize how big this is. Bitcoin becoming a reserve asset for the freaking country. People don't, again, I don't think people realize how big this is. The US currently, like, holds how many tons of gold? And because of that, other countries hold how many tons of gold? Thousands of tons of gold. You know, the US goes down this route. Other countries are going to start hoarding gold, Bitcoin as well as a reserve asset. It's going to cause a massive FOMO among countries. This is going to be massive. People don't realize this. And there are countries that are starting to talk about it, like Brazil is talking about it. But, you know that China and Russia, they're going to do it. They may not announce it, but they're probably accumulating already. This is probably the reason why China already let the Bitcoin miners come back in. They probably have some handshake deal where, like, X amount of Bitcoin they mine has to go to the government already. You know, they're not stupid. This is massive too. You just got to think about it. There's just so much stuff happening. There's just, again, you want to load up as much as you can. Okay? This is that, like, when Pandora's box is open for Bitcoin, kind of, and it'll never be put back in. Like, this is that point. Like, after we hit into the 90s, I feel like we crossed that threshold. And once we break 100, I feel like we're never turning back. We're just going to like keep on going. And that notion of a super cycle that's been talked about forever, I think it's going to be a real reality. I really think so. But lastly, as for the historic targets in sight, we know 100K is a big psychological level to break. But after we move past it there, this giant cup and handle that we are now breaking above, you know, will set us, I don't know, to 160, 200, 300, 500. There are a lot of big numbers swirling around. I mean, by the end of this year, we could hit, realistically, depending on how good December is, we could hit like 140, 150 by the end of this year. That's just the end of this year. And then next year, you know, who knows? 200, 300, 500,000 Bitcoin. The point is, you want to accumulate as much as you can, all right? Seriously, Bitcoins will get very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. The reality is, just the beginning of this month, Bitcoin was still in the 60s. You could have bought one Bitcoin for $60,000, which I'm not trying to say is easy. It's very hard. Even in the 60s, even in the 30s, I said it was very difficult for anyone to take out 30,000, let alone, you know, 20,000 or whatever. It was very hard to take out $30,000 or $60,000 from a bank account to buy one Bitcoin. Now it's even more impossible at 97,000. But think about this. Next year, let's say in a really good scenario, end of next year, Bitcoin is at $600,000. It's going to take you $60,000 to buy 0.1 Bitcoin. 0.1 Bitcoin may cost you $60,000 when you could have had one Bitcoin for $60,000 just 1 month ago. Think about that. That may be reality next year. This time next year. And I may be still streaming then. November 29th, Black Friday in 2025, when I may be streaming, I probably will, guys. Bitcoin may be at $600,000. Okay. And then I'll be like replaying this clip today and talking about how we could have bought in November for $60,000 and then how we went up 10x. It would be crazy. It'll be crazy. I'll remember this moment a year from now.